Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday morning. I hope you started your day on a good note and a good foot and whatever floats your boat. This is our AM actual news where we get to the news straight to the point with the main intention not to waste your time, but to inform you, get you out of the door if you are perhaps on the West Coast, or to help you proceed with your day. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Very happy to see you. Good morning, Sierra. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. And so we have quite a lot of news, and also I encourage you to tune in tonight at 9 p.m. I will be diving into this newly declassified information about the nuclear satellites that. Russia has dispatched into the space in 2022. And so this has been now disclosed, and we'll be diving in what can happen and whatnot. So it will be very interesting, not to alarm anybody, but will be interesting. Also, why am I delayed? I joined a session with the commander talking about the talking about different types of threats and how we can prevail those threats, right, when it comes to, again, nuclear threats, but also proceedings for Air Force and how many bombers we have and that type of stuff. So just to update you where we are and what Air Force and entire Pentagon is working on. Again, we'll be diving into that tonight. So please join me. It will be very interesting. Again, not to alarm anybody, just to be informed. And so I have 12 news stories for you. First things first, on a good note, today is the National Christmas tree lighting, which will be, of course, at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C. This is the 102nd National Christmas tree lighting ceremony hosted by Mikey Guyton. Will feature performances from Adam Blackstone, Steven Sanchez, James Taylor, Muni Long, Trombone Shorty, and the War and Treaty, and Trisha Yearwood. The ceremony will take place on the Ellipse at the White House and President's Park on December 5th, which is tonight at 6 p.m. The tree will be lit. The start of the entire ceremony is at 5 p.m. Eastern, and it will be broadcast on CBS on December 20th, offering a special opportunity to friends and families across the country to tune in and celebrate this holiday tradition from the comfort of your home. Vice President Harris, President Biden, and Second Gentleman will be in attendance. To remind you, the First Lady is currently in Abu Dhabi. She's flying then tomorrow to Qatar and then to Paris, France, for the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral. So, hence, she unfortunately won't be there. Another Christmas tree was lit yesterday. The Rockefeller Center Christmas tree was lit in a festive ceremony. This is for the first time since 1959. This year's tree came from Massachusetts. It will be lit every night through mid-January. So if you are visiting New York, this is certainly a sight to see. And so here's a short video of the ceremony. Take a look. Good morning, Yash. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. And so there was a bit of controversy yesterday. You know, Flavor Flav is very lovable. He's been at the Olympics with the NBC, and so he was invited to attend this ceremony, and they asked him to produce some social media content, and then somehow this happened. So he posted on Twitter yesterday saying, "I feel weird. I was invited to the Rockefeller tree lighting tonight, and I was escorted to see my boys, the Backstreet Boys. And we were backstage in their dressing room. Security came up to me and said, NBC does not want me in this area, and I need to leave. At the same time, their social media woman came up and asked to capture social content. What did I ever do to NBC or anyone? All I ever do is try to spread joy and love. And I think I did that for NBC at the Olympics. If you may recall, he literally sponsored and cheered on the U.S. I think it was water polo team, girls team, and women's team, and together with the First Lady Jill Biden. So this footage went viral with them hugging and, again, collecting some social media footage. So I'm not sure what happened here. So in any way, not that kosher. In other news, now let's get to actual news. Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance is to limit anesthesia coverage for long surgeries in multiple states. So Blue Cross Blue Shield will no longer cover anesthesia for the full length of certain surgeries in Connecticut, New York, and Missouri, in case this somehow affects you. If a surgery exceeds a specific duration, anesthesia cost for the additional time will not be covered. For instance, in New York Governor Katie Hochul called the policy outrageous on Twitter and said that she will ensure that New Yorkers are protected from such changes. And so if you are in Missouri or Connecticut, please inquire some information, of course, especially if you're facing any type of procedure. Now, today marks 30 years since, which was December 5th, 1994, since Ukraine, the third largest nuclear power, was denuclearized in this so-called Budapest Memorandum. And so, of course, USA, represented by then President Clinton, Russia's President Yeltsin, and Ukraine's President Kravchuk agreed in 1994 to denuclearize Ukraine. And so you see it here. In return, Ukraine, you see here Kravchuk actually representing Ukraine. In return, Ukraine would be protected. And so Ukraine agreed to voluntarily disarm itself of thousands of nuclear warheads, 176 intercontinental ballistic missiles, 42 strategic bombers. And just this morning, I found out from Pentagon, United States currently has total 140 bombers. Ukraine had 42 strategic bombers. Compare Ukraine and US size-wise. In exchange for security assurance from United States, Britain, and Russia, just to be betrayed essentially by all in 2014. Crimea was taken over. Nobody did anything. So now, 17 years ago, Ukraine has destroyed its last 22M heavy bomber and 423 Kh-22 cruise missiles in accordance with its voluntarily disarmament to make a clean break from its Soviet past under Kremlin's control in great hopes of being accepted into a free Europe. Now, 30 years later, we're still where we are. Here's a video of the last bomber being damaged or destroyed 17 years ago.
By the Ministry of Defense, and our subcontractors have taken out most of it.
Yes, dear friends, comrades at arms, all of us today, I witnessed
Sarah, you're absolutely right. It's really sad to see Ukraine destroy their defenses. And now, Ukraine is begging for anything, right? And then destroyed again. 176 intercontinental ballistic missiles, 42 strategic bombers in exchange for protection. Good morning, Keith. Good morning. Good morning. Rosie's here. I don't see Rosie, but good morning, Rosie, if you're here. Okay, so today, Speaker Johnson, we've just marked 30 years since Budapest Memorandum in exchange of protection. And then today, Speaker Johnson rejected Biden's request for $42 billion on new aid for Ukraine in additional aid, right? And so he said that on Wednesday that the request to pass $24 billion in additional aid for Ukraine by the end of this year was rejected, saying any further assistance for Kiev would be decided by President-elect Trump when he assumes office in January. Also, it is reported by Ukrainian news, not by here, mainstream media, that Zelensky's right hand, Yermak, is meeting or has met with Trump and also with his special envoy to Ukraine, who is set to resolve the crisis. And so they're meeting in Washington, D.C., and so this is ongoing. Now, speaking of federal cuts, remember this DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency, with Musk and Ramaswamy. They have revealed this morning, which first was reported by Morning Joe, I have to state. They are their programs, right, to sort of cut 43% of the $516 billion budget, which is proposed again by Ramaswamy and Musk. And you see that the first thing to cut is Veterans Affairs healthcare, eliminating the NIH and ending funding for federal prisons. Again, who voted for it? Seasonal's greetings. Let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard. So she faces tough confirmation challenge as Trump's DNI pick, right? She's director of national intelligence. Former Representative Gabbard from Hawaii, nominated by President-elect Trump to be the next director of national intelligence, is facing significant hurdles in the Senate, despite less attention compared to other controversial nominees like Pete Hegseth for the Pentagon and Kash Patel for the FBI. Gabbard's path to confirmation is seen as the most difficult of the three, with many GOP senators questioning her foreign policy views and trustworthiness in overseeing U.S. intelligence, deservingly so. Her past comments on Ukraine war, which were perceived as sympathetic to Moscow, have raised concerns among defense hawks and Ukraine supporters in the Senate, especially as Russian state media has also praised her nomination. And certainly she praises also Assad, whose regime is currently being pushed out of Syria by the rebels, who are not the good guys either, but, praising dictators in the open and being on the no-fly list might be a good sign to reconsider. Hegseth, well, his nomination is not that easy either. So Trump's pick to be defense secretary said, Trump still supports him despite the allegations of sexual assault and drunken behavior. Hegseth reportedly drank heavily while working as a Fox News host and led two veterans nonprofit groups into debt. This was reported by The Times. And in a radio interview, Hegseth, a veteran, said he drank to deal with combat trauma, but he denied having a drinking problem. And so, combat trauma, but then we're eliminating entire VA medical assistance. Very interesting. He appeared yesterday on Megyn Kelly's podcast, I guess sponsored by Ozempic. Take a look where he spoke about meeting his wives and then how he met Jesus. This is just 44 seconds and we'll be done with it. So take a look.
I think it's admitted, at least in your divorce proceedings, that you did cheat on your first two wives. You're on your third marriage to Jen, a former colleague of my own at Fox, and yours too. And your hookup with this woman in Monterey happened when you were with Jen. So that's three, right? And there are a lot of women at home and men who will be like, it's a no, right? He's too much of a serial cheater. Like, how can we put a guy in this position who's a serial cheater? So is that a fair characterization of you?
I think it was a fair characterization of me before I truly was changed by Jen and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I mean that. I mean, people cannot believe that if they don't want to.
We don't believe it. Hey, Rosie Marie, good morning. Yeah, so they saw you first. Good, guys, for pointing out. Lisa, geez, good morning, Lisa. Yes, good morning. Good afternoon in Paris. Okay, so another Trump newly found supporter, Bezos, said this, and then I'll tell you why what he said makes absolutely no sense, especially for him. Take a look.
If we're talking about Trump, I think it's very interesting. I'm I'm actually very optimistic this time around that we're going to see. I'm very hopeful about this. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him. Because we do have too much regulation in this country. This country is so set up to grow. By the way, all of our problems, all of our economic problems, like if you look at the deficit, and I mean, the debt, the national debt, and how gigantic it is as a portion of GDP, these are real problems, and they're real long-term problems. And the way you get out of them is by outgrowing them. You're going to solve the problem of the national debt by making it a smaller percentage of GDP, not by shrinking the national debt, but by growing the GDP. You have to.
No. That's insult to our intelligence. Here's why. U.S. cannot outgrow, well, it can potentially outgrow its national debt by increasing GDP, but one could argue that this could only be achieved by keeping interest rates low. And when are interest rates low? When we have stable economy, right? When people are employed, when people are paying tax, when people are buying, when we as the United States are selling, we also importing, and people are buying, and people are trusting our economy, not thinking that it's going to turn into some turmoil and bismol and some crap, right? Now, if Bezos does support this idea, then he certainly should not be supporting Trump, who wants to impose tariffs, right? Specifically tariffs as high as 110% on Chinese products. And the first company to fall, if this were to become reality, is Amazon. So, Sir Bezos, are you this dumb? Or, you're pretending? Even kissing the ring has to be done in more eloquent ways, because this just represents you as somebody who was just lucky to become who you are, and who did not do that through his brain and certainly effort. And I believe that you're not that dumb. So maybe a better reason to support Trump would be needed. So, for instance, Federal Reserve officials are expected to create models on how the U.S. economy might perform under different tariff scenarios. They will consider factors like whether Trump's tariff plans will provoke retaliatory tariffs. Obviously, it will, right? All the countries will impose same tariffs to us, because what are they going to do? Am I the loser? No, you impose 100%. I'm going to do 100% too, maybe 110. Why not? So, and whether Americans expect inflation to rise, which obviously we will. This approach mirrors the Fed's actions already in 2018, when the Trump administration imposed tariffs on various foreign goods, from solar panels to washing machines. In one scenario, the Fed determined that if we just have a 15% universal tariff, it would lead to retaliation, and it would be best to raise then, as a result, interest rates, especially if Americans anticipate higher inflation. This strategy was outlined in declassified 2018 Fed document known as the Teal Book, which explored potential policy alternatives during the trade war. So for this reason, supporting Trump, because we're going to outcompete our national debt, which is in trillions, and our GDP. Come on now. Jeff, you're better than this. Way better than this. France. Macron faces growing political crisis after governmental ouster yesterday. So he is set to address the nation later today, following the unprecedented ousting of Prime Minister Michel Barnier's minority government. This move, prompted by and far-right factions, came after Barnier's failed attempt to pass an austerity budget without congressional support. Despite a snap election in July, political fractures remain, leaving France in a state of instability similar to Germany, which I reported on. They're going to have their elections in January. which also headed for early elections. Macron's new prime minister will face the same budget challenges with the year-end deadline approaching. A recent poll shows 64% of voters want Macron to resign, although under the constitution, the next parliamentary election cannot occur before July. So half a year to go. When it comes to Romania, remember there's this surprise winner, right? And so remember they have subpoenaed TikTok to show what the hell went down and how the heck did he win. So we have results. Kudos to Romania for the quick turnaround. Georgescu, that's his name. And so his popularity surged due to an aggressive TikTok campaign leveraging social media algorithms, which gained momentum 2 weeks before the first round of presidential elections. According to polls from November 15 to 20th, the candidate received 6.2% of the vote. However, by November 20th to 21st, polls already showed a jump to 10.6%. TikTok informed Romanian authorities about the potential network of accounts involved in manipulating public opinion during the pre-election period. These accounts were also linked to Russian state media outlets like Sputnik, targeting Romanian and Moldovan users. While Georgescu officially declared zero campaign spending, it was revealed that one of the TikTok accounts had financed the campaign with over €1 million. Intelligence services warned that Romania had become a target of Russian hybrid operations, including cyber attacks, data theft, and sabotage. Russian political talk shows also actively discussed the possibility of bolstering pro-Russian forces within the Romanian parliament. Now, Georgescu yesterday declared that if victorious, he would ban the export of Ukrainian grain through Romania, seize military aid to Ukraine, and halt commitments to NATO. The second round of presidential election is set to take place on December 8th, which is this coming Sunday. And so again, quick turnaround. Romania is a big NATO ally. We have military base there. It shares a border with Ukraine. So if this were to fall under Russian influence, we are in way bigger problem than even with Hungary being very much pro-Putin. So now, another story is Georgia. Georgia's Russian-backed government is brutally now arresting opposition members all over Tbilisi, which is their capital. Take a look.
Listen, Saydan kaçtı. Listen, Saydan kaçtı. Bak, mesaj at.
Yeah, and I hear Rosie Marie says Bezos is not better than that. I mean, you know, let's dive into that tonight. Okay. Also, Georgia, if this all stays, I mean, today Zelensky imposed sanctions on Georgian government. Yesterday, U.S. imposed sanctions on Georgian government. But all of that is, you know, pretty much meaningless as to, okay, if you want to travel to US, you can't, but they're still under Russian influence. We're not changing anything. As much as sanctions never change anything in Venezuela. The guy didn't win, proclaimed himself a winner, said that he will put the opponent who actually won, Gonzalez, in jail. And so Maduro is victorious, and Gonzalez is seeking political asylum in Spain and is set to return. And then, you know, who knows what's going to happen next. So condemning and the sanctions, let's see how it helps. You know, sanctions, if there was a economic sanctions, then yes, they certainly lead to some improvement. Next, South Korea. So South Korea's defense minister resigned. Remember, their leader called for this 5-minute martial law to stay in power. And so now defense minister resigned. He said he considered himself responsible for the president's abortive decision to declare martial law, certainly. And so now I'll show you a video, which is in Seoul. Crowds protested to demand the resignation of President Yoon Suk Yeol, who imposed martial law in South Korea a day ago. So take a look. And it's really happening everywhere, right? Because we go from country to country: Romania, Georgia, South Korea. Incredible countries who do support Ukraine. And so that's where Putin started. That's where the influence grows. That's why when somebody who keeps like harassing me, I blocked this guy and he keeps harassing me everywhere, that I do not understand Putin's influence and I'm clueless and delusional, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if this guy consumes any of my coverage, but certainly it's everywhere. Like I block him on one platform, he comes from another. I do understand what's happening and certainly consume coverage. And then you know what I don't know. Now, just now was also like half an hour ago announced that President Yoon Suk Yeol has appointed Choi Byung-hyuk, South Korea's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, as the new defense minister after the resignation of predecessor. As I told you just now, Yoon is also facing an impeachment vote later this week, with public polls showing widespread support for his removal. And so where we're going to end up then, or they will end up then, better said, then remains to be seen. And lastly, Afghanistan, remember, they have passed this anti-women's rights laws. So pretty much women lost all kinds of rights. They lost the right to education. And the only possibility to get educated was in medical field. And so Taliban now banned women from studying medicine. And so emotional footage from Afghanistan was revealed where Afghan female medical students and their instructors were in tears, consoling each other after the Taliban banned them from continuing their studies. The new directive excludes women from medicine, the last field that was open to them.
آتش پرچه که امروز گریان کرد آتش پرچه سرطبیب به من سرطبیب رو بگید سرطبیب این سرطبیب میشه انشالله میشه بخیر این روز سرطبیب میشه
The good old Handmaid's Tale. I'm done with the news. So not everything is as bad, but let's dive into what I mentioned early in the morning that were or before I started reporting on the news. Tonight we're going to dive in and I'm going to show you in pictures what Russia did in 2022 by dispatching their a satellite with a nuclear head on it, which is currently flying around Earth, orbiting Earth, and what could be done against it, what could be done if they were to escalate it. Nobody's going to die, at least right away. So let's not overreact. But what could be, if could be the circumstance that if they were to, blow it up or anything. So we're going to dive into that. Then we're going to talk about my recent meeting now with the commander of Air Force. And so where we are, what do we need, what are we producing? So it's pretty interesting, at least in my opinion. So we're going to dive into that and also into everything that will happen between now and then. Okay. So again, thank you for tuning in. I tried to keep it as short as possible. Let's keep it positive. Keep your head on a swivel. It's snowing in New York. I hope, you're keeping it warm wherever you are. And and I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight. Keith says, my heart breaks so much for these women. Absolutely. Yeah. My goodness, those poor women. Yeah, in Afghanistan, it's incredible, and it looks so, or it seems to be so far away from us. But in today's day and age, anything can happen anywhere. So voting is a privilege, and we should not take it for granted. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. We're sending on sour note for the morning show. You want to see the Christmas tree again? The Christmas tree is cute, though. Started snowing when the Christmas tree was lit yesterday at Rockefeller Center. 7 million people are traveling to New York City for Christmas holidays, and we don't even have the Saks Fifth Avenue, that display with the Russian music. They always played this dun, 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 it's Ukrainian music. It's Ukrainian music. And we don't have that light display anymore. They're saving money, Saks Fifth Avenue, but still we have 7 million people visiting. So everybody who's local is like hiding to provide them, with space to see the whatever they want to see. But anyway, see you later tonight at 9 p.m. Yeah, that's all. Keep it positive. It will be fine. Again, mainstream media talks about Haxath and Tulsi and this and that. Let's see if they will be appointed. Let's see if anything will actually come to fruition. Yes, it's scary. They put out, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Again, we need to see who's going to be really nominated and approved, and then what they're going to do when they are in charge. So let's keep our head on a swivel. Don't get intimidated and shocked into passiveness and just like acceptance and losing your own spirit before we know actually what will happen. So please keep your head on a swivel. Today, just be where your feet are, and this is today, December 5th, Thursday, in the year 2024. Don't be today on January 20th. We will be there when time is right. Okay, so see you tonight. Keep it positive. Again, stay warm and have a good day, and see you later. Thank you for joining me.